3 o'clock. Today's date is,
I wasn't late.
that's the last one,
Take your hat off.
August 7th.
I should have it done on you. Go ahead.
Get started on the Stoneybrook Gateway Advisory Committee. And we have 5 in attendance, myself, J.T. Thomas, Janice Lancaster, Virginia Stacy is absent, Thomas Roller is absent, Lauren Davies is here, and Angela Sullivan is here. Put them all in order. Let's see. If you got a chance, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the minutes yet or not, if you'd like to. I know we had a couple of comments just now about an issue.
So how does that get fixed? If it needs to be fixed, we can't really approve it.
Well, what we do is mention it to them, we'll approve it next time, that's all we can do.
So we just tell them now the adjustments?
Yeah, so in this particular case, Janice, if you want to point out
Okay, on
the spot.
page 2 of the minutes for, July, where it says Miss Lancaster, it should be Angela Sullivan.
Page 2.
On top?
Right at the top.
Yeah,
Four
Or just
there's
all of
1
them?
and 4 down,
So both of those are supposed to be Angela.
yes.
Instead of Mrs. Lancaster, if we can change that to those 2
Sullivan.
statements to Angela Sullivan, that would be good. And get another copy of that for the next meeting. Anybody else have anything?
I was absent last meeting, I'm not sure if everyone else was here. J.T. Thomas?
Was there anybody else? Tom was here last time, wasn't he? I can't
Yes,
remember.
it was.
Yeah,
So it was just me?
yeah, I think it was just you.
Alright, so just J.T. Thomas was absent?
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, I'd have to watch the video, but it just seems like we covered more. than
Well, that was the complaint, that they couldn't hear everything.
Okay.
So
'cause
it
I
was just omitted.
Supposed to be a radio system.
So in any case, I'll tell you what I will ask is for a motion to approve with those 2 changes, okay? Because we can't go back and I don't know what's not here, I don't remember. So I need a motion. Anybody want to make a motion to that?
Warren Davies.
Warren Davies, so moved.
Okay. Who's gonna second?
I'll second, Janice Lancaster seconds.
Janice Lancaster seconds the motion to approve the minutes as amended. All right, so we'll consider that done.
Can I ask a question, because, you know, since we're here, I don't actually go back and watch the video, but it's on file, I can go do that, right? Because I'd
Yes.
really like to,
Yeah,
It's
okay.
on YouTube.
Check it out. You'll have
This
the
is like
minutes in
the-
your hand, you can compare
this is
them.
kinda like the 4th time that I think things are a little spotty, and I'm starting to get concerned that
I won't argue
I'd
with
like to
that.
watch the video now. I think it's to the point I will.
Any chance you could go see if Elle's around? Because I think Warren has some questions about landscaping.
I got a whole bunch.
All right. And do you need, is Elle good, or do you need Chris for this?
L would be good.
Okay, let's get it.
I've got, her and I met last week
I
on,
know that.
on some issues and stuff, and I got some pictures to want to pass out here to show what it was like. And
While we're waiting,
She just wanted a meeting with Chris.
Okay,
but
that's
she-
fine.
She comes out.
We can discuss it, and then when she comes in, I mean,
Okay,
I
pass that
discussed
down.
everything with
I'm
L
sorry,
prior.
I'll pass it down.
or, here's one for you. What I've just passed out to you is the First Amendment to Community Development District Systems and Facilities Operation and Maintenance Agreement. We have an agreement that's like a quasi-interlocal agreement with Gateway to operate and control the assets they own within our community, okay? We've just amended that because we, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, they did approve with a caveat to make a change in the language of the approval to approve towing. So towing is an option that will become available to us to control parking on the street. How we use it will be up to the board and not our purview, really, within our purview. And I just want to mention that
When you speak of the board, you mean the board, the HOA board?
the HOA board, I'm sorry, you're correct, I need to make that precise. Yeah, and HOA board will be making some decisions on that, how to utilize that weapon.
Hey, Al.
Hey, Al.
Afternoon, everyone.
Okay.
How can we access the entire, original on this? Like, these are the amendments, to read everything.
Let's see. I'm not sure,
That's the question, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Instead of just
Ella,
looking
would
at
you
the
be aware
amendments, how would we?
on the
do the
interlocal,
entire-
the agreement that we have for managing
entire
the
agreement.
assets
I've got it.
that Stoneybrook has, the understanding and the written agreement with
Not for my emails.
Gateway Services, where that can be accessed? Is that available on a website somewhere, do you know?
I don't know if it's available on the website, it should be on our shared drive for sure, and whether or not I can access it at this point, I would have to go look again.
Okay, I'll tell you what,
I've got a
Chris,
copy of it.
He's
I
gonna
emailed
email
it.
it to me,
Oh,
but I was just
perfect.
curious.
Yeah, I've got a copy. I had all kinds of public record requests in here in the last, and I've got them all because they emailed them to me, so I can email them back.
all right, yeah, spread that around.
Yeah.
Or technically, we're not supposed to communicate. You can send it to Julie and ask Julie to send it
Okay,
to the
yeah, that's
committee
fine.
members.
She made it, yeah, but it'd be under Sarah Drive, I've got it at home. so.
Okay,
But if
I've
this is
been
an
reading.
agreement, wouldn't this be accessible
already-
to anyone public or anyone in Stoneybrook or anyone through Gateway Services?
I'll tell you what, maybe we'll get it over to Shannon and have Shannon post it
On the website?
On the
I
website,
think
how's
that's where
that?
it needs to be.
The agreement,
Okay.
yeah.
I should be able to
It's public
access
record.
that.
Yeah,
It's public record.
but, you know, being public record, still knowing how to get to it is.
Well, yeah, well, in public
Right.
record, you can email in here to customer service and ask them for a copy of that, either hard copy or email. If they send you, make a hard copy, you gotta pay for it. If they email it, there's no charge to it. That's why Elle was so nice to send me their contract, cause it's about 30, 60 some pages, and they've been expensive.
Okay.
So, but they can email it, cause it's on their drive, their drive's been down, it's just.
And it's still not back completely, we're
Okay.
only up to,
Oh, that-
it's downloading a little
Yeah.
bit at a time, like we had a computer crash, our shared drive went down.
Computer totally crashed.
And we couldn't access anything that was on the computer, they're restoring it as we speak.
You don't have it up on
But
the
we're
website?
only,
on the
it's
web
still
somewhere?
not fully up, it's only up to the M's.
No, I mean, it was
But
disastrous
when Warren
crash.
first asked, I could not get to
Yeah.
that contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it-
I had to wait a few
I do
days.
strongly recommend that you do, use a
Cloud server base.
cloud server base, get off site anyway, somewhere where things are backed up.
Well, I think that's where it's stored and it's just downloading very slowly because there is
That is part of the
there's a
problem.
crazy
There's
amount
so much
of,
stuff on it. it's
Yeah,
not-
and they
Yeah.
do download slowly, I agree, that's been a,
so, well,
and
it's
I got a
going
story
though,
about
it's
that, but I'll
working,
tell you
but-
later. All right, so in any case, we've got you out here, specifically to talk about landscaping, I guess, and Warren's
Yeah,
got some issues.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm gonna turn that one over to him.
okay.
Okay, I talked to Elle and Freddie last week, not satisfied with the quality of work being done. Got some pictures here I'll pass out, you can take a look at. This is, I'll pass it around so everybody can take a look at it. This one shows, you know, they used the hard edger to edge the stuff, but then we thought they were blowing it, but what they were doing basically was losing the lawnmower to clean the sidewalks off, that
blow it
just
up.
blew it into it. And that's about 2 weeks' work thrown into that thing. Yesterday, they cut the grass and they trimmed it. And I did see a couple people out there walking down with blowers trying to blow that stuff out.
Up the
It was so
berm,
bad.
up the berm instead, cause they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
walking down the sidewalk and blowing it back up the berm, they were cleaning up that edge.
Yeah, and it still looks bad. It looks a lot better than this, but it still looks bad because there's so much trash there. It just takes a while to get it going on that. And I was watching the guy who was doing trimming. He needs some training.
Okay,
He had one hand on the edger and just walking about as fast as he could, and some of it goes, and if you go, you'll see spots of grass where he didn't push it down to cut it up. So that's some of the problem. I think they're working on that. I'll just let that go.
I do wanna say one thing about that, because I have looked at this myself and also pondered it. Part of the problem, let's say you do both sidewalks and you go up and down,
Yeah.
that's a 4-mile walk.
Yes,
You know,
Yes.
it is, it takes time, and I think they're trying to
Well,
cut
actually, it's more than
corners.
that, because they go down
Yeah.
and back, because it's 8/10 of a mile from Greenstone to the clubhouse.
I'd say it's, well,
8/10.
all right, down to the end of
8/10.
the road, it's over 9/10 down to the end.
Well, if you go to the clubhouse and to Gateway Boulevard, it's 9/10.
Okay.
But anyway, that's 10th of a mile. But it's down once, 9/10, back 9/10.
Yeah.
It's
That's what I'm
three times on each side, because they do each side of the sidewalk.
That's 4.
And then the curb.
Well, they do the curve.
And then they do the other side, and then that's 3 more. So there's 6 trips they make up and down.
Oh, that's a good point.
That way doing it.
So you're looking at
So
5.5
that's,
miles.
you know, that's a lot, but still, the young guy out there doing it is still not, we're paying to have them do that.
Do it,
The
and-
contract says they will edge it.
My guess is, and I don't know how Freddie, what he tells him, he might tell him you gotta get this done in a certain amount of time.
Hey,
and
that's
they're-
Freddie's problem.
I know, well, I agree. And we
That's
gotta make it
Freddie's problem.
clear to Freddie that that's not acceptable if it's not getting done.
Okay.
One of the other things we had was, I don't know if they had weed whackers or not, but along the lake bank, all the way from both sides of the loop, the grass was about yay high. And so we talked about it that day, and they come out and they trimmed it. And they kind of scalped it right down to the edge, from the curve all the way around, and they stopped on the other side. I have a picture of that, what it looks like, until Monday, I had our estate landscapers trim that grass out. And that's well within the
When did
area
you do
that
that?
Mainscape should done. I got a picture of it
Yeah,
here.
but why did you have them do that?
I'm sorry?
Why
Monday.
did you have escape,
Monday.
why did you have
Why?
escape?
Huh?
Why?
Because it was ugly.
Yeah.
It was ugly, and they didn't do it when they were out there the week, the
Okay.
last week to do it. They didn't do
I
it.
got a point of question about
Yeah.
this, and you live
It didn't
on-
cost us anything.
You
They
live
did
on the
because
lakefront
they could
property.
better.
Who maintains the grass on your property right up to the lake?
It's in our docks, the
Yes.
homeowner does.
The homeowner.
High water mark.
Alright. Which brings me to the subject, is this something maybe your landscaping,
No.
because you individually don't do it, should
No.
be doing?
We have never done that, and the high water mark now is at the top of the stone.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut, and they did a good example of it when they cut between Monday and Tuesday, when Mainscapes did it and our people did it on the far side, on the Greenstone side. They went right from the edge.
Can I see the
point.
picture, because I think,
Right from the point up to the bushes.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying here though, because usually homeowners have in the past, which is what brought up some of the issue with some homeowners thought that they could tell people what to do and not do right up to the line of the
The water,
property.
yeah,
the
the
border
high
line.
water mark, it said
Because they
78
felt like
$40.
that's my property, even
Yeah.
though it wasn't, there's a setback there.
Yeah, yeah, but
so
we
here's,
do,
here's a section along Pebblebrook where the benches are and the sable palms are. Who would maintain this along Pebblebrook?
Well, that's what I'm,
that'd be Mainscapes.
Okay, so behind this villa, up until here, should be
No.
estates.
No, go out and take a look, go back
So
up
this
there
villa,
around the
this
corner.
villa.
Go around the corner. I didn't take a
you know
picture
what I'm
around the
saying
corner.
though, right?
Yeah,
And I'm not, and that's a gray
We
area
have-
for me, I don't
no.
think it's a black and white, I really don't.
I think it's very black and white, because we have never cut that grass over there.
Mhm.
And makes it even more black and white with the restoration done on the banks, because the high water mark stops at like the villa next to, and we go right from that edge across, and that, from that point over to the other side is where it would be.
Do you maintain to the rocks? To where
Yes,
they-
yes.
Okay, well
You do.
then he's right then, because they
Yeah.
only did the rocks directly behind
The
residential
problem
homes.
is where your picture is, there are no rocks right there.
No,
Right.
because, because the high water mark is over on the back
Well,
side.
just like behind my house, half of my yard has rocks,
Yeah,
the other half doesn't,
yeah.
What do you
and I
think,
maintain
Yeah.
to the lake.
first of all, what do you think the correct answer here is, and what can we do?
If it's along Pebblebrook,
Yeah,
Mainscape should trim it right
Yeah.
down to the edge of the water.
because there's no homeowner right there.
Correct.
And
And
then.
that's the excuse why they didn't bring the rocks over there, because there's no homeowner.
Correct.
I didn't know when Mainscape was gonna come out, that's why I
Okay.
mentioned, I was talking to our supervisor of the state, where they cut, and he said, well, we've never cut over that way. I said, well, you know, I said, it looks really bad, and then he went and did it on his own. I didn't really ask him to, and I made mention that it really looks bad over that way, because they've done all the way across and stopped the right there, and I thought, well, we may be having a discussion as to who's supposed to cut that, and so, but again, then, and the reason I ask about a weed whacker, and you have another name for it, I can,
It's string trimmer,
a what?
string trimmer.
Okay, string trimmer.
String.
They cut the grass, yesterday, and again, they didn't do any trimming, around, some of the bushes, and they didn't, up by where the, bench is, they didn't do any trimming around the bench area there, and they didn't trim around those bushes, and then the two big, other, trees out by the road, they didn't trim anything around there either. The grass is, you know, they cut it, and the grass is about this much higher, a lot lower than what it was.
So that means they're really going right into their back.
And this is from last week, this wasn't this week's. And,
What am I looking at here? What am I supposed to be looking at?
no, the high grass here.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, the
Okay.
high grass around the trees here, around the stuff. The, and that's why, if they had a weed whacker like that, because that would be the only way, you know, looking at the contract, it says that they will edge around the trees, and it's with a steel blade. But they can't get some of that stuff with the steel blade because of the poles coming down.
Right.
And then the, around the bench, I don't know what the problem is on that aspect. I've been trying to pay attention, I have not seen them out there with a weed whacker. They may, I would assume they have, and maybe they don't, I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
they do.
Maybe we should have, I mean, I know those are our benches and stuff like that, maybe we should have, our handy guy spray Roundup around it, just to kill the edge, you know, so, 6 inches around so grass doesn't grow up.
Well,
Actually,
they've edged it. If you look closely, it's edged.
Well,
It's extra
Yeah,
grass.
I like to keep manscaping edges
I
away
don't-
from our stuff.
I don't think we should be looking for
Well,
things
you know,
to
there's
do.
always the, possibility too, to rebid the contract and get somebody else.
Yeah, well,
I
and
mean,
this
you know,
is
if
what
they're
this is
that
what I'm trying
bad.
to say.
yeah, I know. In fact, we are talking about that. We have a landscaping committee. But we really were a little bit reticent to break away from you guys, because then you get into that situation, who's responsible for what?
Well,
And
I
they
think
can't
we're
do
beyond that, Joe. We're
Okay.
beyond that, totally beyond that.
Well, I'm not a board
Uh,
member, but that, you gotta bring it up at a board meeting then.
Well,
As
no,
far
I
as-
think we have to make some decisions here of what we're going to do.
Mhm.
I think the quality of work has gone down the last couple of months. It really has. Here's our infamous weeds that grew across the sidewalk for 2 weeks and nobody cut it.
Which side?
Until some sidewalk, until somebody pulled it out.
Like pavement.
Someone just ripped it out.
Is that the asphalt?
Yeah,
Yeah, across the asphalt.
yeah, that's,
So, and I-
whoever's doing the edging just simply isn't
Oh,
doing
they
the
didn't do
job.
the edging.
Yeah.
They hardly do the edging along the macadam. They do the sidewalk real good, but the other side,
That's a straight run, that's why the
yeah.
curve is
Yeah, and
hard.
you can't, well, they could use a string trimmer out there, but you gotta be careful on the asphalt.
yeah, well,
You can't go down the side of
They
that
can-
with the blade like you
No,
can the
you
other
chop it
side.
up, you break it up.
And
they
even
can
with
use the
string
steel
trimmer.
blade along the macadam. That's not a problem if he's using it right. I mean, they go along and they don't, or he's gonna have to stop and pull out some of the weeds, at least right now, because it hasn't been done in a while.
Hasn't been done properly.
Yeah, so it kinda goes, up and down. I'm looking right there, cause I'm up and down that place, that area all the time. And in reviewing the contract, there are just some things that perhaps in the contract that, they're not doing, cleaning up the sidewalks, they haven't been doing a good job on that. And it says in the contract, the sidewalks will be blown
Mm-hmm,
down.
yeah.
Mowing, I don't know if their mowers are not sharp, or the operators need to be trained, but if you look, their cuts are very uneven.
Yeah.
And I know the ground's uneven, but this is more so.
They hit so many light poles or other poles that
Well-
I think it throws the things out of whack.
They get around, but like
Every now and
from,
then, you gotta balance and adjust those cutting decks so they're level.
and some of the area, they go down, they make one cut down through there where they should have made two.
Yeah.
And they would have gotten some of that
That's
stuff.
what goes on behind my house on the berm.
Now they And I think, you know, a lot of complaints come up at the last HOA meeting, and I think that's why they developed a landscaping committee. And I don't know where they're gonna go. You know, we pay between what the HOA pays and what we pay for Stoneybrook is over $300,000 a year. Yes, Joe, 300,000. It is.
Fresh my memory what it is, what do we pay?
We pay, the budget is 200,000 for next year.
For the HOA.
For the HOA, and we're paying $118,160 a year. So that's, you know, $318,160 that we pay, and we're not getting that kind of work. And I don't know if it's, the supervision out there that, their supervisor that's on scene isn't either training people to do what needs to be done, or he's not out there supervising what they're doing. I know he has a lot of young folks out there, and when you see them flying down on their lawnmowers, it makes you wonder how they're getting any grass cut. Because
They're going by so fast.
Yeah,
In
and
addition
the
to
same way
that-
with the trimmers and stuff like that, and I wonder how often Freddie is out there
I never see him.
supervising.
I don't see him out there supervising.
No, only time I see him is when
The
I
meeting.
meet with Elle,
Yeah.
and he didn't say anything that day, and we went over a lot of different things right there, and.
Something else has changed too, and it came up at a meeting that was held yesterday. It was a budget meeting, but nevertheless, this subject did come up, and they were talking about the budget for next year for Mainscape also. But they were talking about people complaining that of late, rather than parking in the parking lot and then heading down out to cut, they're parking trucks all day along the street.
A truck. I got that message, I went down there, I took pictures, there was
Okay.
one trailer
But
on the
sometimes there's
road,
two.
and the
Sometimes
proper
it's-
MOT was around that particular
Okay.
vehicle.
Yes,
But
they will.
sometimes it's two.
Yeah, yesterday morning when I went somewhere, there was two trucks, and I personally don't have a problem with parking there, because they put the cones out and stuff, it's
They do
25
it right.
mile-an-hour speed limit, it shouldn't be a problem. They've been parking one truck down near Greenstone, and then they had the other truck parked, I wanna say up closer to Bluestone.
Probably.
And
between August
that
and
is, to me, that's a good distance, because you have people going different directions, like the kid walking 3 miles doing the edging, and then the lawnmowers getting different places, when they finish up, they can put them right on the trucks and go. I personally don't have any big problem, they've been doing that forever, I don't know.
No, that's relatively new, to have them
That's
there
new.
all day long.
Huh?
That's new.
That's relatively new. That's
Just
only been a
now.
few months
No,
that they're doing that.
I don't recall them parking any, I know they were parking
That's what
up
I'm
the
saying,
clubhouse.
Yeah, the clubhouse
This
is
is
what used to be done.
But
I
that's
don't
that's
even,
another issue.
I'm not even sure which way the board prefers to have them do it, I don't know. But the subject came up yesterday,
Yeah.
there was some concern about it. I don't know what changed, is this a decision they made? Somebody tell them to do that? I don't know the answer. Now, Andy, our president, was at the meeting yesterday, and he had no, insight as to why the change occurred.
No, again, I've seen, it seems like I've seen
And
them
so
for
was the
a long
camp, she
time.
was there, and they certainly did ask us about our point of view. But in any case, there are some who feel because
No, I haven't been around there yet.
it's a big community, but there's a lot bigger communities than ours, and for whatever reason, my God, we get a lot of traffic on that one road. There really is a lot of cars coming and going all day. And when a truck is parked there, even though they do a good job of parking, I agree they use the cones and everything, it does create somewhat of a bottleneck. And then there comes a point in time when the school buses will be coming, and that's gonna be a problem.
Now, this week, right?
No,
Soon.
Monday, Tuesday,
Monday,
Wednesday.
this coming week.
Well, my recommendations would be to work with the HOA landscaping committee to see what direction they're gonna go. If they're gonna put it out for bid, then perhaps maybe we should put it out for bid, so everything within Stoneybrook is done by one landscaper. I think that avoids
Do you
some
bid
problems.
And maybe the landscape committee can get out there and they can do their own inspections, and maybe it'll be done the way you want it.
Yeah, and I think that's, to me, that's part of it too, is putting that out to Mainscapes and to Freddie, that, you know, they're looking at doing away with this, and they're gonna put it out for bid, and you could lose or Mainscape should lose over $300,000, and then they're gonna have to lay off. I mean, it'd be a big process. I'm sure they've hired people just for those areas because they're in here all the time. And-
I will say this, that the areas that people are complaining about right now, not the only areas, but what he's pointing out are areas that generally, except for what is around the lakes, would come under our 004.
Yes.
And so on those sidewalks, there is no 004 budget issue, so that really is here, and then we can work with them.
Well, I think that's the thing.
Not that I'm looking forward to getting involved with another committee or anything, but,
Well, I'm looking at least attending the landscaping committee to see what direction they're going, and if they, you know, I've got a contractor, I've got little pinky things in there, pick out things. Elle was good enough to get that for me, and stuff, so I have read that, and there's some things that they're not doing, I'm sure, as the contract goes, but again, I think we just need to, and you hate to threaten, say, well, this is what we're going to do, because they can rebid. There's no question they can rebid. And if they rebid, you know, there'll be some landscaping companies do it, but any landscaping you get, no matter how good you think they are, you still have to stay on top of them and follow up and check those kinds of things.
and we don't have to tell Elle that, she knows that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That it really comes down to, you know, staying on top of them.
But Mainscapes was, in our bidding, Mainscapes was like $15,000 more than the closest other one.
And when he says our, he means the
The
Stone
state,
Valley, which
yes,
is a
one
whole
of the
separate
villas,
little
yeah.
issue over there.
Yeah, we were thinking we would get Mainscapes because they're right
Right.
there and stuff, but boy, their prices come in and everything.
I know they had to pay more to put people, they were losing people and having trouble
Oh,
hiring them.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure that's a
Elle, can I ask you a
continual
question?
thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I know these guys are out there working their butts off. You see them and it's hot and it's raining.
It's a tough job.
I think that we have a supervisor problem with Mainscape. So can you request a different supervisor to take over, or have the landscaping committee meet with him and clarify? I mean, he needs to see these pictures. This needs to be discussed with that
Yeah.
supervisor.
I can't tell you how many dozens of times we have met, showed pictures and.
So it's time to
had
move
issues.
on then.
It's
I
an
got you.
ongoing situation.
No,
I don't know how many communities, Freddie actually manages, do you know, or?
I don't.
Because
I mean,
they
does
may
Mainscape
be
have other
spreading him
supervisors?
too thin too, I just
what,
don't know.
I know they do Gateway Greens, Timberwood Preserve,
Is that his responsibility to supervise
Mhm.
that?
does he
yeah,
give
all
you,
of Gateway, all of Stoneybrook.
does he give you a report,
I get
like for this week, of what's gonna
I don't
happen
get
next
a weekly
week?
report.
Huh?
I don't get a weekly report.
Because the contract calls for them to submit,
get a monthly.
submit here a report of what they're gonna do next week.
We have that in the HOA, which he doesn't really do, but I don't know, does that exist, say it exists also with
Yeah.
them too?
Yeah, it does, yeah, yeah.
But we go out and do a weekly drive-through with them, so I just never push
I know.
that, but we do get a monthly report.
I know that, and this is a little bit off base, but a couple of those trees that we had put in, a couple of palm trees, and there was one that was pushed over when they were working on
Met
it.
Tower is supposed to replace that on their dime because they pushed it over
And that's why I saw it that morning, I told Kathy, and she came out and took pictures, and,
Mhm.
and it's not doing well, that tree's not
No.
gonna make it.
No, it's not.
The two palm trees furthest down.
On the lake bank, where they did the.
On the lake bank, they had hit it with their equipment.
So are they putting in 2 new ones?
No, the other one's okay, it didn't get affected as far as I
Yeah,
can see.
they didn't push it. That was when they were restoring that pond bank there.
Yeah.
All right,
Who's bets on how long that
Okay,
those trees
wait.
are gonna last?
Request a different supervisor and or have the supervisor meet with,
Well, we've already met, but I think that,
no, there was a
well, yeah, we've
specific,
met and talked about this stuff, Elle and I, and the thing that probably concerned me more or upset me more was you were taking all the notes and Freddie was just standing there with his hands in his pocket, and he didn't say nothing.
Well, that's because
He
I
sent
take
these
notes and
pictures?
then I send them out.
I just got those. I
So
just
he
got
needs
those.
to see these pictures, I guess.
Well, he was out there, he saw.
Here, give them-
But what was the other part of that request? Either request a different supervisor and or have the supervisor, the on-site supervisor meet with this committee, the landscape committee, or your HOA?
Wow.
Well,
Which one was that?
doesn't he meet with Kathy on a somewhat regular basis, and I know he meets with
Yes.
Shannon on a somewhat regular basis.
Okay, well, I don't know when he meets with Shannon,
I
I
don't
know
think
he,
he's met with Shannon in a while.
Really?
Well,
I
that
could
would
be,
be,
I could be wrong, but
I would say that would be a priority
Well-
with Kim, because then she could supervise this and have a
okay,
meeting
or
with
meet
him.
with
I think-
Kim.
I know for a while their landscape was like Margaret's thing, you know, she would,
Margaret's overwhelmed with
I
everything
know.
that's going on here.
I'll check with the clubhouse and see when the HOA landscaping committee is getting together. Or try to run down the chairman and see if we can't set up a meeting, with them and us, Elle and Freddie.
What, okay, I was going to say,
And
if
Shannon,
Shannon
and
needs to be
Shannon,
there.
yes, yes.
the other
yes.
possibility is
Especially
to
if she has
find
to.
out when Shannon, if she is still meeting with Freddie,
Yeah.
because I thought that was supposed to happen at least every couple of weeks.
Yeah,
And possibly
yeah, and that would.
show up
at
for
the-
that meeting, but.
At the HOA meeting, when they were discussing that, there seemed to be a lot of people throwing things out. And a couple people very vocal about getting new people in there. And, you know, to me, you know, we've gone through how many different landscapers, and we've never got the perfect landscape.
It doesn't
We're always
exist.
fighting with
Doesn't
them, we're
exist.
always out there supervising, we're always out there trying to get little things done or things that they've corrected. So it's something that, you know, to change for the sake of change isn't good, but if we can improve their and the quality for what I've seen has gone down on our area in the last couple of months. It has not been a continual thing. There for a while, those cuts were just so nice, everything looked so nice.
I think part of what happens this time of year, things grow so much faster with all the rain.
Well, they're just not doing it
And
right.
it's just not as easy for them to keep up the way we would like them to do.
Well, I think they, you know, the key thing is that they comply with the contract. If they comply with the contract, I don't think there's gonna be a problem that way, but.
And I think if they're meeting more often and they're checking in like they're
Well,
supposed to.
I know LB's
that's
with them
part of the
probably, I know
problem.
weekly and stuff, and.
Right,
But it's just.
that's like a 2 or 3 hour drive through once a week.
Yeah, it's,
Which includes not
Yeah.
just Stoneybrook, but all of Gateway Boulevard, Griffin, Commerce Lakes,
Yeah.
the other side roads that we maintain.
Just to bring you up to snuff real quick, you know, we're having some issues with Mainscape again, but that's nothing new, right? And we're looking to see if we can get together with them and the people, we're forming a committee, not we, but the board is putting together a committee to possibly put landscaping out to bid again, taking a look at it. And I know that I asked Margaret yesterday where you guys stand. I think you still have a year left on your contract, if I
It's
remember.
renewable every year, we can cancel it, you know, in the 30 days.
Have you given any thought to looking out there again? I know it's a hassle to put these things
We
up
do
there.
every 3
You
years,
do.
not every year,
three,
but.
but not every year.
Yeah, they,
Hmm.
and in fact, it's just budgeted out through 2020. So,
Over a month to month.
expiration date is
well, it's not month to month,
3/31/2021.
you have a 1-year contract, and then you can always cancel any contract within a 30-day period.
Yeah, if the contract's written that way, not all of them.
Right.
So
It
when
has
does
to be,
that
some
end?
contracts have
When
with
does it
just
end?
cause.
Actually, it would be March 31st, 2021, but the 320, and
Oh.
it's, you know, we're paying $532,000 to Gateway for their business. Stoneybrook's 04 fund is $118,000, and the budget for the HOA.
For next year.
From yesterday was about $200,000.
They're
So
looking at
just for,
what we're
just for Stoneybrook, it's $318,000,
And
and we're not getting the work.
they're trying to ask us for an increase because they say it's more trouble to get over to our berm on 82 now, which,
Well, it could be because, I'll tell you one thing with that, it is because they can't pull up on that road anymore now that it's.
That's true.
Divided and high speed and sidewalks out there and, yeah.
but I think what they're claiming is the access around, there's a ditch there that gets in their way where they would want to access it now. I don't know, I have to look at it.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
But, and that's not even our really this committee's, issue, but I think that it's probably the HOA needs to take a look at
Does
that.
that come under
see
the
if,
HOA?
Yeah.
That's HOA, yeah. But that's, you know, it never stops, it never ends.
Well,
And like you said, there is no perfect landscaping
And that-
company, but I will say this, our costs for landscaping have really escalated over the years. If you looked at what the budget used to be a few years back, and it's significantly higher. than
well,
it really
all
is.
that stuff, the cost there does not include the mulch. It doesn't include some of the other stuff, you know,
I thought
and
the last-
irrigation's another problem. too.
Yeah, well, irrigation, if they break the heads, they're supposed to pay
But,
for it.
yeah, but
But of
I'd
course,
say this-
everything that gets broken is
Yeah.
never them.
They do the weekly checks and stuff, but like, you know, the mulch is a separate bid. And cutting the trees are a separate bid. It's not all part of that contract, I don't believe.
Actually,
The
the mulch
mulch
is
is-
supposed to be included the last time.
The mulch itself?
Yeah, it is. It didn't used to be, but it is included in that
Okay,
contract.
okay.
That was
Take
part of
that
the
back,
kickoff. I even noticed even along Gateway Boulevard, you've got a couple of broken signs out there already, signposts. And there's metal pipes in there sticking them up, and you know who's hit them, it's them. And we have the same problem in our community. We spent a lot of money to replace posts, and I just, come on, guys, you know? Jeez, not blaming you, but you know, they gotta be more careful.
Well, they finally
really
did
do.
dig out around all of them, so they
Yeah, I know,
could chop them
but
with the
still,
weed whacker.
Well, the villas are doing their own little thing on their mailboxes.
yeah. Yeah, he did a nice job. But I was shocked when I saw that the pipe, you had several, I think 2 or 3 broken ones at the northern end up there on the right side, where there are speed signs or whatever they were.
You kicked them out, you kicked them out.
Northern Gateway?
And stuff.
Yeah, on the right-hand side.
On Gateway, yeah.
Speed limit signs?
You like those stones there, JT?
I don't, you know,
I really haven't really
at
looked
least
at
1 or 2 of them gotta be, speed signs, and then, what, you got other signs up there too, a road sign, I'm not saying that's the one that's broken, but you have several signs along the road up there.
Who handles the signs now? Is it you guys or is it
Yeah.
Lee County?
No. Lee County would handle it, but the district kept it because they want the decorative expensive
Signs, yeah.
signs versus the,
And we're also maintaining the landscaping along there too, which I'm sure Lee County was more than happy to turn over to us. But then again, drive around the area and see what the roads look like along this, with the landscaping, and that's why we want to control it, because otherwise it'd be looking pretty crappy along there. Anything else on landscaping?
No, I'll check with Shannon, and I can't recall who the chairman is of the landscaping committee.
I think it was,
I can picture him, I
I think it
can't
was
think of-
Terry.
Who?
Terry Tarja.
Larry Tarja? No, I didn't know that.
I don't think so. I don't
He
think
He's
so.
the one that started the whole thing.
Tall guy.
Maybe, but yesterday
All
he would have
done.
mentioned it. if-
He was on the last committee.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, we'll find out. That's-
Yeah, I'll find out.
Do you have anything for us?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
No,
let you- I got
no,
one.
not at this time.
except for we love Stoneybrook.
Thank you. Thank you for all
We're
you
getting the
do.
bumper stickers for you.
Along that line, just real quick, we had a couple walked in yesterday at our little coffee and conversation thing, and they had a realtor with them. And they walked over to us, and they saw us sitting there in the big room. They said, "Oh, we're thinking about buying a house here, so how, are you guys happy here? You know what, are you staying?" And it was all kinds of things. And they said, "Yeah, we're not going anywhere, we're happy, what are you gonna say, you know?" But it was funny, because it was something along the lines, everyone could have been a chorus, "Yeah, we love Stoneybrook," but that didn't happen. That's all we got, L.I., that I can
Okay,
think
I'll
of.
get these notes out to Main Street
All right,
and see what they want to do with them.
Okay.
One question for you before you run away. Are we done with the cuts and the tree and the trimming of everything? Because I don't get between Ivory Stone and Stone Valley over there.
I believe so. When I was out there last time, they were still doing some work in there, so I planned on checking it out.
You're talking about the big ficus trees and stuff?
Pardon me?
Talking about the big ficus
Yeah.
trees? There's still that big lump behind, that's still the one that fell down from the hurricane. I know it was part of the last bed. that
It
they were
is still there?
It's
Yeah,
still- it
then
is
no,
still
it's
there.
not done.
All right, so that.
That's why I said
In
no, I
fact, if I
still need
remember
to go back
correctly,
there and
we
walk
did
it.
pay for that to get removed in
Yes.
that first contract.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you can handle that, we appreciate it.
Because I look over there almost every time I drive past.
Alrighty, next subject was crosswalk sealant contract review. Now, I don't remember that us looking for sealant though, were we? We were looking for a contract to clean it.
Thanks. itself.
Where'd that
I
come
don't
from?
know, I have no idea. The only thing I've been involved with that is the pressure washing, you know.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
last time we did the contract.
I don't know what that, I don't know. what that-
Because I will say this, for those who were not here, but previously, we had, one of the companies, I don't remember if it was the last one we were using or not, but did a section where they cleaned it, and a section where they cleaned it, and they put a sealant down, and you remember this. About 6 months later, we looked at it, we couldn't tell the difference. And,
Are we
am I
talking about
right?
the crosswalk sealant, or are we talking about the pressure washing sealant?
I'm talking about,
What agenda item are we on?
It's supposed to be on 4.
I'm for.
So that's, the sealant is gonna be for the crosswalks, probably putting out the new.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You know,
yeah, I
'cause we're looking at
misread.
the
I
contract.
misread.
I think you
Yeah.
combined it 4 and 5.
Yeah, I did. Never mind.
Well, but we do need to know when the contract
Yeah,
runs out.
well, for the crosswalk, sealant, which is really the,
That's what-
thermoplastic, that is, I know it rained that day, and it's been raining every day, and.
They're just waiting for a day where it's dry enough to send the crew out.
So
Okay.
all we could do, if you guys, just to let you know down there, that's why it hasn't been done yet, because it's been raining every single day. Give me a heads up, I'll spread the word, get the land, you know,
I'm just waiting to hear back from them, because they typically send their crews up to start working about 7 o'clock, and traffic's died down,
mhm.
and do it into the evening.
As far as the irrigation goes, it helps a lot if I know the day ahead of time though. So, get that off and try to have it as dry as possible.
Yeah, the last time, I think, when they were gonna come out, we called Mainscape directly and just told them. to shut
Yeah,
it.
okay, that'd be fine, I have no trouble with that, saves me the trouble.
And Chris, when you talk to them, what was their procedure? They're just gonna go back and fix what they did, or do they have to pull up anything and reseal that plastic sealant that was peeling?
I asked the supervisors out there that day, I said, well, what do you do, scrape all that up? He said, no, we can't. So we just go right over the top of it.
Okay,
And probably the thing in talking with him that kinda got me more, again, concerned was, I asked him about the scars, the scratches through it, and I said, what causes that? Well, you know, they probably picked up a stone. I mean, why didn't you clean it, sweep it, or
Well,
whatever, you know?
Russ,
And that's what a lot of those marks and scars are on those things, I got pictures here somewhere, oh, there you go.
So if you got, so,
oh
if the
my
problem
gosh,
is that,
that's not
if
acceptable.
the problem is it
No.
coming up, if they paint over it, ones that still come up?
You know, that,
No.
where it's coming up, they'll scrape that off.
Oh,
Look,
okay.
this-
Yeah, yeah, that aspect, but.
This is
but-
where this is dragged, that's gonna peel, it's
No,
gotta.
no,
We inspected it.
we got underneath, and you can't go underneath, look at this now, it's just really.
That's just not right. You're having a rock drag across.
Yeah, there were some scratches going parallel
And there was-
direction of the,
We paid a lot of
the
money for
bars.
this, so I'd expect it
There's
to
some-
not
this is
have
some over
drag,
some of this
scratch, rock
spilled
marks.
some.
In any case,
More
let me know.
Redo it, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
And,
also
and
working
he
on-
seemed like a reasonable guy talking to him, he didn't seem.
They're a nice company.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're.
And I think, for the most part.
So
they're
are they
down
doing
there.
every single one that they did? They're redoing them like
No, not
whatever?
every single one, the ones that had obvious defects.
Yeah.
Well, that's a defect to me,
Yeah,
that
that's a
drag,
defect.
that's.
Okay, well, if it's a bad scrape, they're
Yeah,
gonna take
that's a
care
bad
of it.
defect.
If it's just a little tiny scratch here and there, they're not gonna do it.
But this, something like this will be fixed.
Good.
And they're doing repairs, and then there were 2 other areas
That's
you
not
wanted to
peeling,
add.
that's something.
Yeah, there was ad, and there was also, cause on both Stone Tower
Stone
and
Tower,
Ivory Stone, where the loop came in on itself, we have forgot to put a stop bar there, so you're gonna add a stop bar there. And there were a couple of crosswalks or bars or something, I think were crosswalks that were just weak, and he was gonna do them over, there were a couple of those.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think that we should be okay. I actually got a good feel about this guy
Yeah.
we were talking to.
Oh,
And it's a good firm, I mean, they're conscientious and.
Yeah, it seemed to be. I
So
agree.
who gets the final say on like, oh, the job's done, somebody's gonna supervise it, do we?
Oh, we're not standing there supervising.
No, I'm saying when it's done, to go, oh, that's good now, or just somebody.
Just got there a day later.
Okay.
the day we went out, it was me and Joe and
And Tom Roller.
Tom Roller and the guy.
And Chris.
And I forgot the
Chris was right.
picture I got delivered to me that someone took who was sitting on his butt, taking pictures of all 4 of us going in 4 different directions while we're checking something out. But I've got that now, I'll let you show that.
Somebody took a picture of us.
Yeah, he, whoever it was, had to be sitting down, looking out of a truck, and he took a picture of, and all
That would
four
be
of us
me.
were all going different
You
directions,
did?
it was really funny.
Okay.
Chris?
Still
I think
type
the
of thing
caption
or
was
something.
plenty of inspectors.
Yes.
You know, more the merrier sometimes. And also different opinions, one person sees something, another one misses, that's why I had three
Yeah,
pictures.
sure. And we are doing, we have a couple of work orders to replace those smashed up concrete flumes.
Okay,
And also we're getting some stone epoxy to put those stones back up in the guardhouse. and on
Do you,
the sign
do you,
up
are
front.
you guys need, do you guys need the stones?
They're laying on the ground, right where they
Because-
fell out.
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's what I was thinking, where am I gonna get this?
oh, this is on the side of the building.
Is it the same stone that we have in our clubhouse?
No, it's all blocked up in this.
Is it the same?
I don't know.
Cause there's a box up in our attic.
On the gatehouse, was
Is that stones?
So I know, we know the brand, the color.
But the pieces that came out that
They're
fell,
still there.
they're laying on the stones right there, and I picked it up and went, yeah, this
That's
is
it.
easy.
Well, apparently
Some
if you
epoxy.
need some, we may have some extras, okay?
Yeah, no, every place where they were missing.
Was there,
I didn't know we had those stones up there.
that's all, after the last board meeting.
Hard to find
I
them.
went up there. Well, now we know the brand, the color,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
a lot
sure.
might not line
Sure.
up, but.
All right, well, so the crosswalk, or, it says sealant, but the crosswalk lines should be taken care of, we're just waiting for cooperative weather. Power washing contract, have we come to some kind of an understanding or have a contract from somebody, or?
The last time he did it, we had him do it, and he said twice a year, but it's one of those things, call him and,
He doesn't wanna have a contract, he does.
no, he could. I don't think we did one for like a year, twice a year, it was just that, one time that we had it.
I thought we did have a 3-year contract.
I think we just,
That
no,
was
we
the
had it
previous
with,
The
guy.
old
Premier.
company.
That was.
with Premier and then also with another company, what was the other name?
Well, the one company that we had the contract with sent somebody else
Right.
out, one
And
time.
the last guy that did it was, community maintenance.
Yeah.
And he did a
Well,
good job.
Yeah, and they were about half the price as Premier, cause they were like 1,900, I think he was at 11. There was
11 or 12, yeah.
Significant difference. in
Well, the
price.
reason we'd like to have a contract is that we would like to spell out what we would like done.
Right.
Because I get a lot of feedback about what wasn't done around the around the corners. Because there's an area on the sidewalk where it isn't really in front of the homeowner's house. If it was my house, I'd clean
Someone was up there pressure washing it the other day.
it. Yeah, and.
Were did they come back out?
At the clubhouse.
No, they're
No,
on your street.
Clubhouse, that's us. That
Oh, in
is,
our street?
They're on Greenstone, out on
Oh.
that curve, pressure washing.
Oh, okay, that
This was
wasn't,
a week ago, 2 weeks ago, not even.
I think I can see it done. Cause I just walked across that the other day and it was still
Someone was
dirty.
pressure washing there.
Well, it doesn't look like
well,
they
someone
did.
was
and it was definitely-
on
it was
the
definitely
sidewalk
your
and
street.
put painted arrows on the sidewalk.
Well, getting back to the issue of the contract, I'd like to have something that spells
Is
out
that something that we need to
price,
bid out, or
what
can
we're
we
gonna
just,
do.
I think we all.
I think
we've
right
used it
now,
before.
this guy we're using is gonna be a little contract.
And if you wanna just lay out 5 or 6 points, and we could put it on a map, go around the corner, we could just take the same street map Stoney used on the roads for the towing policy and mark them up.
That'd be fine with me.
I thought he said that he had to get a special piece of equipment to go around.
This is a different company now.
The
I'm
old,
talking about community.
no.
No, not community.
Well, if he gets a contract from us, he can go out and buy a new piece of
No,
equipment.
the other guy complained he had this big thing that he went down the street with, and if he went around the corner, he'd have to drive there was nowhere to turn it around, so he'd have to go all the way down the street and turn around and come out and get out. That was his argument. So he said what he does in some communities, they clean everything, every street, every sidewalk, every curb. And I said, well, what would something like that cost? He said it was like $10,000 to $12,000. And I didn't know we wanted to spend that kind of money to clean sidewalks and curbs,
No, we don't have any.
So that was the story on that. If we can get, and we'd be willing to pay him a little bit more money, just to get around the corner, to me to the point where,
To the stop bar. or
Yeah.
The first house.
yeah,
First
the
house,
first
stop bar.
house, yeah, because the stop bar may be beyond the property line.
Stop bars are all
First
weird.
property line.
Yeah, and the stop bars are all over the place, depending upon where the sidewalk runs, especially on the side
I
where
would
we
say
have
around the
the
curve.
asphalt.
to the property line, to the
Homeowner's property line. Yeah.
which is obvious when you see the grass and
Yeah.
the curb.
So I don't know what we gotta do to do that. Is that something, the office can handle for us, or what? Me and you guys?
Just lay out what you want, like I said, what you're saying to me in writing, you know, what you want, and there's no confusion.
Okay.
And we'll put something together and send it to him for a quote.
All right, fine. If he wants to meet with us, just give us a heads up. I think I saw the guy, I don't really know him who's doing it, but some
Harry.
people do.
His name is
Harry, yeah, I don't know him though. Was he down at our community center the other day when they were pressure washing?
Probably.
Was that him?
Oh, actually, you know what, he was,
Yeah, he's tall, slim guy, young?
yeah, but they,
Not
I
yet,
think
but-
they have like,
Oh, young compared to me.
He's young.
yeah, I remember seeing the truck down there, right?
All right,
But shouldn't we look at it and review it before Chris sends him and, you know,
There's
just
really,
make sure it's
there's really
right?
nothing to review, just our sidewalks around the curve, that's it.
Okay.
Make sure it's done right.
yeah.
And adding where we just never had it done with the
Well,
old
around the curves,
contract, right?
around the curves to the
First property
first
line.
town property line, yeah. Okay?
Can I ask a question, on the flumes, how many are gonna be done? Do you know
I saw
specifically?
2 that were destroyed.
Two
I'd
are
say
destroyed.
four.
There's a couple others that are broken up.
There's 2
Little broken
destroyed,
areas,
and there's
yeah.
4 that need to be done. Cause I took pictures of all of them one day.
Do you have those pictures?
I do, but it take me half an hour to dig through.
I don't mean now, I mean, can you
Yes.
send them to
I
Chris?
took a picture of
I
every
went
single one
down
of
there,
them,
I
so I could compare.
I know the 2 that were really bad, the other ones you're talking about, they're a little ripped up.
Yeah,
And it's gonna be a different procedure this time, because supposedly the guy did too thin of a job on the concrete, that's why it cracked in the first place, right?
no.
No.
It cracked in the process, there might have been one that cracked that reason prematurely, but they cracked when we redid the sidewalk. When we redid the